Death is a road to awe. These are the words of a broken god, a dying god, spoken nearly 3,000 years ago at a moment of triumph. For this god stood at the verge of mastery over the lands of the living and the dead. How the mighty have fallen. My name is Megan Carter. I was sacrificed by the insane, the parasitic. There's a breed of vampire known as the Malkavians, and it was this group of psychotic creature who took me from my school and held me down as they cut me open. The Malkavians sacrificed me in the cold darkness of a warehouse. They didn't care about the life they tore from me, of course. They didn't care about my family or my fiancé. They didn't care that they not only sacrificed my life, but my eternal soul for the sake of their power. They just cared about a conversation with the void which binds, the warden of this strange, dead place. Salvation. My memories are hollow, like watching an old film on a bad television. What I can remember doesn't feel like it happened to me, and other things have infected my memories that I know are not mine. Memories of a great celebration with thousands of my followers, standing on a field beneath a great obsidian pyramid, praying to me as I began to tear down the shroud. I remember standing in the court of Las Vegas as Prince Benedict directed me to investigate a masquerade breach in a town in northern Nevada. I remember a meeting between vampires in a dark place in a forest where a vampire named Hybreus traded his freedom and his soul to save a woman he loved, a vampire named Callisti E. Castillo. He pledged to serve the three who stood before him in exchange for her life, and we accepted. They accepted. I remember watching my father lift me high above the water of the Colorado River back home in Laughlin, and I laughed and laughed, and his smile. Which of these memories is mine? All of my life and my death seemed to be tied to salvation. When I died, my soul was harvested by the void which binds so that this being could communicate with these vile vampires. I became an Oblivion Prophet, a hollow, empty thing infused with the power of Oblivion itself. Even in this horrific state, the void which binds still had plans for me. Not content with all it had taken from us, the void then used us as pins in a locking mechanism, a transportation device for its chosen. I have one avenue for revenge, one hope for justice. This message. I infuse the passage from the place you come from to the place you go to with my thoughts. Hear me. Salvation has been a prison for thousands of years, so old that it was buried when the Europeans came and settled upon it. As the town flourished and grew, they began to dig. They didn't know the risk they engaged in when they sought happiness, but life is a trial we can never truly be ready for. They dug. And in digging, they broke a small part of a seal that held an ancient prisoner. This breach was enough for the sickness of the mind of this dying god to flow like the breach in a nuclear reactor. And much like a reactor, this tortured mind began to change the world above it. It was in this way that a sleepy town in the northern desert became a manifestation of the alienness of a dying god beneath it. People began to change, slowly at first. Eventually, even in this place, people started to take notice. The vampire Benedict sent someone to investigate the reports of a danger of their shared lie, the masquerade. The prince sent a young Malkavian investigator named Hoyt. This investigator found a great many things, but found himself incapable of communicating back to his masters or leave salvation. He learned that this dying god would soon escape its prison, and so he made a choice. He became part of the machine that kept the dying god imprisoned and stopped the growth of the infection from its broken mind. Hoyt sacrificed himself to preserve this prison and act as its warden. Hoyt became the void which binds, and in the name of his grand purpose, the void believed everything was acceptable. Every atrocity and slaughter, every manipulation and cruelty. Meanwhile, powerful forces swirled around salvation. Creatures, conspiracies, cults, Aquila, Argos, Nautilus. They did not care about dying gods or voids which binds. They didn't care about the thousands of souls trapped in salvation or warped by it. They didn't care about me or the others sacrificed by the Malkavian cult and turned into empty Oblivion Prophets. They had ambitions, but they also had masters. Everyone has a master. And their masters cared very much about salvation and dying gods and the void which binds. Their masters made it clear that this place needed a resolution if their desires were to bear fruit. The void which bind was dying, its body not strong enough to channel the power that coursed through it. Some of the old masters shared the same desire as the void, to replace the dying Malkavian as a jailer of salvation. Some old masters yearned to see this broken god walk again and learn from the mysteries it had discovered. Others still would just like to watch the world burn in the soul fire of chaos that might rise from a struggle between jailer and god. The void which binds is dying. Someone must replace him. That person will decide the fate of many with their choices. They will doom themselves as well, for salvation requires sacrifice. You must decide the nature of the person who will sit in the throne. Don't decide and you will all remain trapped within this hell. Choose the wrong master to sit in the void's place and perhaps see everything you love reduced to ash. I envy you and your opportunity for vengeance. I do not envy the trials you will endure to get there.